Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to She-Ra, Season 5, episodes 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, we're finishing off these last 3 episodes today, no matter what. That's just what's happening. My original plan was maybe to get some She-Ra done yesterday, which, again, might have been all 3 episodes, might have not been. But it kind of didn't work out because I recorded Schindler's List yesterday, and that was just so heavy. I couldn't record anything else. I was going to. I even got it up already on the player, but I couldn't I couldn't do it. I couldn't I was just so taken aback, I guess would be a fine way of putting it, by that film. Um, but we are here today, and although we have tomorrow to record still as well, um, I do want to get it taken care of because we got other stuff I want to record as well this week, and we haven't gotten to, and so it's like I want to be able to get to that stuff too, and I don't feel we'll be able to if we keep splitting up more and more and more with She-Ra because it'll just take up time slots and everything. So we're just gonna get this done, or not time slots, but you know what I mean. Um, so where we left off, Catra helped Glimmer escape from Horde Prime's ship in order to take, well, not in order to, but with the caveat of taking the punishment herself. Um, and so I want to do a couple things here. I want to make something very clear, and I want to give a prediction. First, let me make something clear. I want everyone to understand this right off the bat. I'm not a big Catra fan. I never have been. I have never been a big Catra fan. I've never thought she was all that great of a character. And I've never understood, since the beginning pretty much, the fascination with her character and why so many people adore her. Because, she's a fine villain and all, but that's it, honestly. Honestly, Shadow Weaver and Hordak were always more interesting, to be completely honest, as villains. And Scorpia, I mean, Scorpia, you never really believed was evil or anything, but at the same time, she was still the most interesting of the villains. You know what I mean? Um, but Catra was just kind of there, at least for me. I didn't hate her, but I didn't really like her either. She just didn't have much of an impact. Like, I think her popularity, if I had to guess, has to come from the fact that she's a cat and she's voiced by AJ Michalka, who does a fantastic job, mind you. Because she's not particularly funny. She's not really that entertaining to watch. She doesn't have that great of a personality. In fact, honestly, her personality is kind of shit. Not in terms of writing, and just in terms of her personality. There's not really any big reasons to like her. And again, most of the big issues that our characters have faced in this series has been because of her. As she's basically said, she's been the most successful member of the Horde, more successful than Shadow Weaver ever was. Honestly, much more successful than Hordak ever was at anything. And yeah, she was unsuccessful at other things, such as um, ripping apart, or nearly ripping apart, the dimension and everything. Um, but that was more because she was kind of losing grip on everything at that point and was just kind of losing her mind. But yeah, it's just I haven't really found a reason to like her that much. Yet she's like one of, if not the most popular character in this series, and it's like I do not for the life of me understand why. Like Glimmer, Adora, Bo, Seahawk, any of them, Mermista even would make more sense. And it's like you can like who you like. Subjective taste. It's like fine, you can like who you like. Your favorite character could be whoever you personally like the most. But it's like I don't get it. I personally have not found any reason to really like her that much, and honestly, I still don't see that starting having started season 5 now. And I still, and I probably always will, be entirely against Catradora. I still hate the idea of that ship. It's not that I just don't agree with it or don't like it. I actually actively hate it. And I've explained why. I'm not going to go into all of the fuss again. But just, once again, very simple way to put it. It is glorifying and excusing an abusive relationship. And accepting the idea that an that you should just get back together with your abuser because they get better, which is an extremely toxic idea and horrible idea and dangerous idea. And the entire argument that, oh, it's because she's a cat isn't an argument here. That does not work. But I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I rant about that enough as it is. Um, so let's talk about my prediction instead. Based on what we've seen on Horde Prime's ship, now that Catra has been captured after helping Glimmer escape and everything, I I mean, honestly, there's only one way this can go based on everything we've seen so far on the ship. Catra's going to get brainwashed. It's not even a question to me. She's going to get brainwashed just like the clones. She's going to be turned into a mindless servant. And there's no other way for it to happen. It's so obvious. Like they've been building that up this season. Even directly showing Hordak, or who we I guess presume is Hordak, uh, being continued to be re like programmed in that way. And it's like they've clearly been building that up for a reason. Constantly showing all the clones with their creepiness and everything, like showing the just showing the one clone getting reprogrammed and everything. It they wouldn't just like focus so heavily on that without a point. It's not just to make Horde Prime look intimidating, because honestly, they didn't need that for that. Horde Prime is already intimidating enough otherwise. So it has to be for some other reason that it that it's got to be that is going to come into play. And so now that Horde Prime has captured Catra, yeah, that's clearly going to come into play. It couldn't happen any other way at this point, honestly. And I will be shocked as hell if I am wrong. And honestly, I would be really confused if I'm wrong too, because it just there's no other way this could head at this point. No other logical path. It just it's not even just that, oh, it makes the most sense. No, it's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only way this could go at this point. So it's like if it doesn't go this route, I have I just have no clue. I have no clue where else it could go. Because just because of how much that's been built up, they've practically been shouting in our face that that's going to happen. The only thing is that now we know specifically it's going to happen to Catra instead of like Glimmer or something. But yeah, it's clearly the path that they were building up this entire time. Anywho, anywho, um, yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. Now I have been told the intro changes quite a few times throughout the season. Um, I'm probably not going to watch it like on camera every time. Um, if the opening is like if the opening plays before anything, like there's no cold open, then I probably will end up watching it before I actually start recording. If there is a cold open before the opening, then I guess I can watch it still. But honestly, we know the changes are going to be minuscule and immaterial. And they're just going to be like little minor aesthetic changes, like to explain someone getting a new outfit or something happening. It's going to be just minor stuff like that. And while it's cool that the show does that and everything, honestly, in my eyes, that doesn't work for Netflix's release schedule. If it was a weekly show, that would make more sense and that would work. But when you're marathoning, people who marathon shows most of the time are going to skip the intro, for one. And for two, that entire concept, the concept of changing the openings to reflect current happenings, is built upon the entire idea of waiting for the next episode and seeing, and when you get to the next episode like a week later, you see that it's changed. It's like, oh, this is new, something's happening, or that change we saw in the last episode or something is a big deal. It doesn't work if you're just marathoning and bolting through them like a lot of people do. A lot of people, when these seasons came out for this series, like would watch an entire season in pretty much one go. Maybe a couple goes, of course, but within the course of a week for sure. And most cases that I've seen, at least, within the course of a couple days. And this goes for pretty much any show on Netflix because it's Netflix's entire like point. It's their entire idea. Marathoning shows is literally what Netflix is about. That's why they don't release shows on a weekly schedule, even though there's so many that they should and would actually make them better. And it's the entire reason why, even with Netflix shows, I don't watch them all in one go. I don't marathon. I've marathoned a couple of things, and usually, though, it's only like a few episodes at a time still, even with that. It's been very rare for me to actually really marathon a show, like really marathon it. And that's because, for me at least, shows just aren't as good if you do that. It takes away the sense of anticipation, which is one of the biggest factors in enjoyment of a show, honestly. For me at least. That sense of that sense of tension that's created with it is important to the enjoyment of a show. But yeah, it's just it doesn't work when people are marathoning shows and are going to skip the intro 99% of the time and won't even notice. Like, even for shows with a good intro, most of the time, if people are marathoning through it, they're not going to want to sit through the intro every time. They're going to skip through it. So yeah, it doesn't really work. Um, but anyways, we are going to get on with this. And after this, we'll be going back to the normal like 2 a week thing up until the end, which there will be 3 a week on the final week, just because that's how it's set up. Um, and we should be back to normal in time for Ruby. Which is good because um, I'm honestly more excited for Ruby at this point. Um, and that's nothing against this final season of Sheer. I really am excited for this, and I've said it before. I adore this show. but Ruby, it's something special, and She-Ra just can't hold a candle to it. It really can't. As good as it is, it really can't. Um, but yeah, we'll we'll see how this goes either way. We'll see how these episodes go. Um, and hopefully they end up being really damn good. So, I think we've done enough talking, pre-thoughts and everything. So, we're just going to get on with it. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So in the pre-thoughts, I talked about how I didn't really like Catra. She was never really like that great of a character for me. Um, she just kind of felt like she was not a bad character. It's just kind of like very overrated by the fans. Like everyone treats her as if she's like the best character in the show, and she's really not. um, but I do want to make that clear. I don't hate her character. I never have. It's just I don't like her as much as other characters. Glimmer, Adora, Bow, Entraptum, or Mista, Perfuma. Like I like them all so much more because they just feel like better written characters to me. Um, Catra isn't like one note or anything, not by any means. She definitely has complexity to her, but she's just never felt like exceptionally interesting to me. And honestly, the fact that she has been so undeniably bad throughout this series, even though it was obvious she's going to be redeemed and everything, it still kind of comes across as like, yeah, they're just kind of forgiving and forgetting about things that really should not be forgiven and forgotten about, at least not that easily. Like they just kind of brought her in without any hesitation just because she helped Glimmer. She did one, like, they literally made a point of how she did one good thing. Like, that was literally Catra's entire, like, thing about it. And even Glimmer relayed that idea. And it's like, and that one good thing, it somehow makes up for all the bad you did, including nearly tearing apart reality, including killing Angela. I mean, while she didn't do it directly, it's still her fault. She is still responsible for Angela's death. And it's like, yeah, saving Glimmer and everything was nice and good. And trying to actually be redeemed and switch to the side of good is fine. Again, we expected that for Catra. But you can't just forget about all the evil she's done. And you can't just use the excuse that she's an abuse victim too. Yes, she is very much an abuse victim from Shadow Weaver and Hordak and just the Horde in general. That's undeniable, but that doesn't excuse her actions. It explains them, but it doesn't excuse them. Her actions are still bad. She has still been a bad person. And even well after the fact, where she's been given plenty of opportunities to change, plenty of opportunities to switch sides. Hell, she's even acknowledged well in the past that the Horde are the bad guys. She acknowledged that really easily. But she didn't care because it's all they knew, and she felt like she was being betrayed when Adora left. That's all that mattered to her. It was her own selfishness. And again, the entire, as I said in the pre-thoughts as well, the entire she's a cat argument, like cats are selfish and grumpy and kind of jerks. It's like that's not a valid argument. It's not a valid argument. She's a character. Whether she's a cat-like person or not, she's her own character, and you have to judge based on her as a person who can think and act and choose her own way. You can't just like, oh, because she's a cat person, she's got to be like a cat. She's got to be an asshole too. And it's like, no, no, no. That's not an excuse for anything. It does not work. It does not hold water. And as I've said in the last reaction, I'm fine with Catra being redeemed. In fact, I like the idea. I think it's a good idea. But I feel it was rushed here. It went way too quickly. They accepted her and everything way too quickly. And I get the entire thing about forgiveness and just trusting in people and shit. And it's like, that's all well and good. But situationally and in terms of the context of this series and these characters, and again, what Catra has done, I'm sorry, you can't just forgive her that quickly. That's not really okay to do. Again, she actively tried to rip apart reality out of petty revenge. She she's an asshole. And again, the idea of her and Adora getting together after this, it's like it's just perpetuating the idea of just getting back together with an abusive ex just because they change. And again, Catra has definitely changed. I'm not going to argue that, but the point is that's not a good lesson to teach people. In fact, that's extremely harmful to teach people. That is not only extremely harmful, it's dangerous. It is dangerous. It is just morally bad to teach people that they should just accept and forgive and get back together with their ex who has been horribly abusive and honestly horribly criminal just because they change. That's not okay. That relationship should be completely dead for all time. There should be no hope of that relationship ever starting again. That is, it's not healthy at all. It's extremely dangerous and bad to have that reconnect. And again, as I said last time, I'm talking specifically romantically. Um, they can be friends or whatnot. But yeah, it's just I'm not going to get over that. And if they take that route, it's going to be a bad decision. And I don't think it'll ruin the show at this point because the show's just so damn good. And it's not like with Starco in Star versus the Force of Evil. It wouldn't be as bad as that because honestly, even if it was just Starco in the end, Star versus still could have been good, but they ruined everything in the end. Starco was bad, don't get me wrong. Canonizing that was a terrible decision from a writing perspective and a character perspective, but that was honestly not the worst thing that they did at the end of Star Versus. Like, my God, they really fucked that up. Um, but yeah, yeah. Um, and so far for this season, it seems like they're really ending on a high note. I have no real complaints about the direction this season is taking. Even introducing new characters into play, I doubt they're going to be major characters in any way, so it's fine. Um, we still know who our major and main characters are, and they're still the ones who are going to have focus. These new characters are just season-specific ones who are going to help out in probably the final battle. That's all. Um, but yeah, it's like right now, what we have to acknowledge and uh, everything is that this season is continuing to kind of go in the route that it was always headed. Like it doesn't feel like Steven Universe or Starverse where it completely just fucked everything up. This one actually feels like it's doing right here, which is good, which I appreciate. I like that. So at this point, even if Adore and Catcher get together, it won't ruin things. It'll be a it'll be a blotch on the series. It'll be a bad thing, but it won't ruin the series. Um, wouldn't even ruin the final season overall. Um, and again, like I said, I'm fine with her getting redeemed. I'm fine with her becoming a good guy. That I'm all good with. It's just it is literally just the relationship part. So want to make that very clear. But let's talk about other stuff. So Spinnerella is infected. We don't know when it happened. We didn't really see, but after Natasha and Spinnerella got separated and then reunited, you could tell something was off with her speech. The way she was talking seemed weird and not quite as robotic as everyone else's, but it definitely seemed very off and it was super obvious. But then, like, she was fighting with everyone, and it's like, so you kind of forget about it. But then at the end, it's like you realize it's like, oh yeah, she's been taken over. She's definitely being sent in kind of as like a spy to take them out from the inside, presumably. Um, and you know that's going to be really bad when Natasha and her have to eventually fight. You know that's going to happen. Because out of everyone in this series, they have definitely been the closest in terms of relationship because, you know, married, wives and all. So you know that like seeing them fight is going to be a big deal. Seeing those two go at it, these two wives are going to have to fight each other. One of them being controlled, and the other one like that's going to break Natasha's heart. You know it's going to. And while that's heartbreaking and sad that when it's going to happen, it's like it's good storytelling. I've seen this kind of thing in other stuff, and it's always really good to see. It makes for a very good scene when that happens. Honestly, honestly, as mean as it sounds, I want to see Natasha break down fighting her, like actually emotionally break down. I would love to see that. I think it would not only be great for her character, but honestly, I think it would be a great scene and show really just how bad this can be with Horde Prime and everything. So yeah, I think it would just be overall a good scene to show. Um, so let's talk about the Star siblings. So I'm gonna look this up real quick. I forgot to in between, but I swear I heard about this like on social media, about a character in this final season being trans. Yes, it is Jewel Star. I was correct. Um, because again, I thought I heard about this before. Jewel Star is voiced by a trans voice actor. Okay, in the original show, Jewel Star was a woman, and the Star siblings were known as the Star Sisters. So, and it was originally theorized that Jewel Star could be a trans man, strengthened by the fact that he's voiced by a trans male actor. And the character designer Ray Geiger did later confirm this. So yes. Okay, so I was right. I did hear about this before. I did hear about this. I wasn't 100% sure because it had been a while, but yeah. So that's cool. I mean, this show's been really good about all of the queer representation in general, so it's not like a huge surprise. Like we've already had a non-binary character, we've had a lot of LGBTQ plus romance kind of stuff going on. Um, Bo has his fathers and everything. So it's not like it's not a surprise, but it's still awesome to see. It's great representation nonetheless. And they don't even mention it. It's never even mentioned at all in any way. It's just like he's just their big brother. It's just how it is. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's cool. So the Star siblings, they have notable personalities. Like it's very notable. Like when you think about like a lot of these like cartoons and stuff, you'll see characters a lot of the times who will have like these very notable character personalities. Um, it's like kind of like the joke that you hear sometimes. It's like, oh, this character's the smart one. This character's the funny one. That's kind of how the Star siblings are. You have the tough leader, which is the one sister who has the like, kind of robotic cyborg kind of attachments. You have the funny cutesy one, and you have the kind of serious leader one. Even though, again, the other one, the other sister, kind of seems more like the leader than Jewel Star, but he kind of has that almost kind of personality to him, almost a leader like personality. They have these almost strict personalities and these styles to them, and it just maybe we'll see them again before like just a final battle and they'll have more put into them, but they just seem very one note at this moment. Like there's not too much to them. Um, but that could change. That could very much change. It just seems like they very much feel like again one-off characters. They might appear again, but all in all, they feel like one-off characters who aren't meant to be like just joining the fold of things altogether. Which is why it's kind of okay that they're just introduced in the final season randomly. Um, but yeah, it's just you kind of wish there was a little more to them, a little more time to develop them and everything. Um, you also have now Wrong Hordak, who has joined them, kind of. Wrong, so Wrong Hordak is one of the Horde Prime clones who whose connection was severed after Entrapta mistaked him for, Hordak, which is why he's called Wrong Hordak now. She mistook him for Hordak, and so the connection ended up getting severed after he kind of came out of his pod. And now he's just kind of panicked and joined them. He joined them because they convinced him that they were working for Horde Prime. So, yeah, there's that. And he's just kind of helping out. He's just kind of there. He helped Glimmer make food, but he still seems loyal to Horde Prime, but isn't connected anymore. So he's just kind of there. He's just kind of like this goofy comic relief thing, I guess, for a sense of levity. But otherwise, I'm like kind of wondering, like, what's the point of him being there? Is there actually going to be something that comes of that? Because right now, it just kind of seems eh. Like like even the comic relief portion of it is just like okay. There's nothing about it that just seems like overwhelmingly necessary. Like you've seen all of these Disney movies, right? Where there's like this animal sidekick character, and it's just like, why are they there? They don't do anything. They're just there for like comic relief and looking cute and selling toys and shit. It's like they don't actually have a purpose. Why? And that's kind of what like Wrong Hordak feels like. Why? He's not there for any real purpose that we can tell at the moment, though that might change. We'll have to see. Right now, he just seems like a comic relief character to add a little bit of levity amongst everything being so heavy right now, being so harsh and intense. But honestly, Glimmer could have added that levity. Bo could have added that levity. And in terms of back on Etheria, hell, you had the stuff going on with Frosta and Micah that honestly just I feel made more sense and worked better. The idea of having Wrong Hordak there, I don't see the point yet. Again, maybe it will come into play, and don't tell me if it does, but maybe it will, and I'll be proven wrong. And honestly, I hope I am. I hope that there is a point to him being there. Um, and I have finally seen Save the Cat. I want to talk about that. I have heard of this before. I've seen people mention Save the Cat on Twitter. There's a lot of queer people on Twitter I've seen mention it as like this big, like super huge episode for all of that for the representation of the show, and it's like, in terms of the representation, it's okay, I guess. Like I get what they're going for with the entire Adora Katra thing, but eh, eh. It's just like the episode was okay, I guess. I had no real issues with it. But all in all, it's just like it was just okay. It like wasn't anything special. Wasn't anything super exciting or fascinating or anything. I feel like the people who are really just drilled into it, who are really just exceptionally invested in it and loving it, are the Cachadora shippers, I feel. It's just the people who are so obsessed with that ship that it's like, yeah, that episode's going to be kind of for them. But to the rest of us, it's like not so much. Like for people like me who is much more into Glimmadora, because honestly, it's a better ship. Um, it's just all things considered, it was just an okay episode. Um, I didn't really have any issue with it. It wasn't bad. It's just I don't see, just like with Catra, I guess I don't see why everyone's so obsessed with it. But maybe that's just me. Um, and yeah, so they managed to escape, and let's talk about Shira coming back. So I believe it was Madame Raz who had said before that like Shira was like a gift from Etheria itself or something. Like Etheria chooses Shira, and that the tech only helped kind of like bring her out and helped control her and stuff. Like it wasn't actually the tech that created Shira, but rather the planet itself. So if that's the case, then that means Adora could have channeled Shira at any time without the sword. And the sword was again just the first one's way of controlling and harnessing Shira. So now that we know that she can just summon it at will at any time, pretty much, that definitely adds a new layer. And this Shira does automatically seem stronger. Like that's without question. Seems much stronger, much more capable and powerful, and it seems almost like Adora is just much more um, capable with this form than the other one. She's just automatically. It seems like she's automatically perfected even stuff that she clearly could probably not do with the original form, like going around in space unprotected. Um, and I like the idea of this, and I love the new transformation sequence. It's actually much better than the original. The outfit, I'm just kind of split on because I'm not sure if I like the new one better than the first, or if I still like the first outfit better. But the transformation sequence is better. I will say that. Um, I will say I don't like her hair in a ponytail as She-Ra as much. I don't think it looks as good that way. Um, but yeah, I love the idea of this nonetheless, and I think that this is gonna really, well, obviously, it's gonna turn the tides of this all. But I think this is really going to leave kind of a big impact as well on just the characters and the story and even the fans like seeing this. It's going to just be really cool to see. Well, obviously, I mean, most people have probably already seen this by this point, but yeah, you know. Yeah, and overall, these episodes pretty good, pretty good. Still definitely feel like setup though. Like everything so far feels like it was just setting shit up. We're 6 episodes in, like halfway through the season. So that has to mean that either the second half of the season is going to get so insane it's not funny, or nothing much is going to happen until the final few episodes. It's got to be one of the two. Either pretty much the entire second half is going to be completely insane, or it's only going to be the final few episodes, and everything up to that's going to just feel like setup. And honestly, I'm not necessarily disappointed by that, but I'm more so kind of, I guess you could kind of say I'm disappointed. It's just, I felt like this entire season was going to be much more like investing, much more intense and exciting constantly throughout the entire season. But we're getting a lot more downtime than I expected and honestly than I wanted. And things are still happening, but all things considered, like this last episode, for example, episode 6, like, oh boy, they defeated some horde ships following them. They removed Katra's tracker slash implant. Back on Etheria, the rebellion fought some possessed people and escaped. It's like, all things considered, it's not that intense and exciting. It's like, it's fine. I have no issue with it. And it's like, I'm interested in the events happening, but all things considered, it's just kind of, it's not what I expected. I expected this entire season to be much more constantly high intensity. Like, kind of like, okay, here's a good way to put it. Ruby Volume 8. Let's put it that way. I expected it to be more like Ruby Volume 8. Ruby Volume 8 has maybe a couple moments, the first half we've seen so far has like a couple moments of like more slow talking and stuff. Just some moments of calm in there. But pretty much the entire season, every episode has been super intense. Something has happened that makes every episode pretty much super intense. Shit's going down. The entire first half of the season so far has been just basically that. Shit's going down. Everything is bad. Everything is fucked. Everything feels so much more impactful. That's what I thought this was going to feel like, and it's not. So that's why I said in like my pre-thoughts that like, while I do love She-Ra very much so, it doesn't hold a candle to Ruby. Not at all. It's not as good. It's not even close. Um. So yeah, there is that. Um. But other than that, I guess I don't really have too much to say otherwise about these episodes. I think that's pretty much all I've got to discuss here. Um. But now that we've gotten these episodes out of the way, next week we'll go back to the 2 a week and hopefully not get behind again. Um, so yeah, and again, the final 3 episodes will all be done together just because there's 3 and it times out that way to get back into Ruby afterwards. But tell me in the comments below what you thought of these episodes of She-Ra and the Princess of Power Season 5. And as always, no spoilers. I do know a couple of things. Well, actually, I think only one more thing going ahead. Well, it's kind of one thing, kind of 2 things. But either way, I'm not telling you guys what it is yet, so still, no spoilers in the comments. Like, do not spoil anything. Um, so, yeah. Once again, Thank you so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.